Welcome back everybody to macro_action. Today we're talking about this baby, beautiful baby, OM1 Mark II with the 90mm macro that I've been using, trying to get to grips with lately. I've done a bit of pro capture on it, and I can tell you now, absolutely brilliant little camera. Can it compete with the big boys? Yes and no. Going to give you the good points first. They are, in no particular order. The pro capture in this, compared to what I've used before on the Canon R7, is absolutely brilliant. It's seamless. It's really quite customizable. You can use it however you want with different menus, and it's quite easy to tell in the menus what you're doing. I do like the pro capture on this because you can just shoot how you'd normally shoot, and then you end up getting shots that you wouldn't have got because it's however you've set it up. I think I've got it set up for 25 shots previous, so it's shooting around about 1 second before. I like the way that the files are seamless as well. As you view your shots, you can just see them in a normal order. So what I do when I delete my shots is just look through my viewfinder and I protect the shots I want, as I've said before, and then I end up just deleting the whole card and it just saves the protected shots. So it's exactly the same as I would have done it on all of my other cameras. So I really like that because the files on anything I've used before, it puts them into separate files and you have to open the file and then go through all of them. You can end up missing shots, but with this, it's just all in the same place. Really easy to look at, the same as you would do any other deleting. When you get close enough to your subject, this gives off really good details. So I wouldn't put it on par with the full frames, just under. It's very, very good for what it is. The whole body, the system, it's light, it's small, just as advertised. The grip is really nice on this. I can do the same as I do with my other cameras. I end up walking around like this sometimes, just messing around, holding the camera. This eyepiece is really good. Put it up to your eye, good bit of cushioning here. The great thing I found out the other day is you can slide that off really easily, and it's got two clips here and here that you can just, they clip as soon as you put it back down, and it's solid, it will not come off. But once it's off, it's really easy to clean that screen there. It's a nice glass area that's really easy to clean. And to be honest, normally that would be really dirty for me already. It's not that bad at all. I don't think there's any marks on it. I have not even cleaned it yet. I'm finding that the human face detect is probably the best one I've used on the insects in flight, which is kind of weird. I'm using human face and eye detect for insects. The birds is okay. I just think that the human seems to find it a bit easier. The focusing is really good on this. It just picks up quite quickly. This is really, really nice when you've got the backlight illumination on this viewfinder. Nice and bright. I love the manual override that I found in the menus in here. It's brilliant. Just turn it whenever you want and you can use it. To be honest though, what I found is I haven't really used that much because of these three switches on the lens here. They've just been absolutely amazing. Anytime I want to get a subject in a certain area, I just end up using this. And also in the menus, that switch is customizable, so you can have it at different distances. I will play around with that later to see what distance I can get it at, but I've not really needed to because I've just switched it when I've needed it. And I found that the super macro, there's an S macro, I think it's called super macro, I don't know, but it goes up to 2 times magnification. You can use that, and that kind of gets me at the distance where I need to be for detailed insects in flight. I said before, I like this lock that we've got here that we can switch between all of our settings here. I always leave mine on manual anyway, but then click it and it's locked. Love that. I love that this switch here is customizable as well. So this can be set between video and still shooting. There's a good selection of buttons around, quite a few buttons there all over. And there's also a great selection of shutter speeds that you can do even with Pro Capture. Battery life seems quite good. I had about 70% power when I went out the other day because I forgot to charge it, and I still got around about 1,500 shots with about 17% of the battery left after that, which I used to do deleting afterwards. So hopefully that should mean I get around about 3,000 shots per battery if I'm just doing loads of shooting at once. Not sure over a long day period that would be like that, but in, you know, like just shooting and shooting and shooting, I should get around about 3,000, which is pretty much on par with what I get on the Canon R5 and the Nikon Z8. Okay, sorry about this, I've got to be honest, but now it's time for the bad parts of this camera. In the field, the most annoying thing to me on this camera was this eye sensor. It's great that it's got it there, and weirdly, just testing for this video, I went inside just to double check that I wasn't wrong about this. And inside, it seems to work really quickly, but in the field, outside, maybe it's bright sunlight, I don't know what it is very slow. So I go to shoot something, you tend to look at your scene rather than you're like this all the time. So I look at my scene, I see something, I go like this, put it up to my eye, and maybe a second or two later, it's changed, it's made this screen live. Before that, the screen was blank. So it takes a second or two to get back to where I can see what I'm actually doing and shooting. The problem with that is by that time, I've lost whatever subject I was flying around, and I've had to go back to looking outside of my camera again, and then you go back and then you have to do it all again. I don't know why it does it in the field, but it definitely does it. The workaround for that is to just switch it off. You switch off the sensor and that EVF is live all the time. The good thing about that as well is once you do that, then you use this button here and you can switch that between back screen and EVF manually. The 2x crop, I know it's a 2x crop. It's supposed to make this an effective 180. It doesn't in my books. I don't think it does at all because of focus breathing. It almost seems like this is the same view as the Nikon 105 Z lens. In the viewfinder, you have to get quite close to get the subject big in the frame, which you have to do to get the detail. But I don't see the benefit of the 2x crop in this, as in it's 180mm, because it doesn't seem like that. Plus the other thing to my full frame cameras is they're at 45, 46 megapixels. So I get to crop in a lot more, whereas this, in order to get the detail, you have to be close to get it big in the frame because you can't crop as much. It does crop, but you can't crop as much. I do crop it down to the same size, but I'm finding that if I don't get close enough, the details aren't as sharp. But then when you get close enough, the details are very sharp. I will say, again, I've missed out something here, but I would say on the plus side of this, when you do get really close, this seems to have a more realistic look to the photo once you get close enough, but you've got to get close. So, like I said, again, the 2x crop, not quite sure where it is because this lens does have focus breathing. I said the focus was brilliant. The tracking seems a little bit slow on this, really. It's good, so it can track, but it loses subjects a lot easier than my other cameras would do, and seems a tad slow sometimes. It'll keep up with most things, but for really fast moving flyers that bounce off, it can't keep up with the Pro Capture. So Pro Capture ID is brilliant, but it seems to be going out of focus really quick. So I am catching things, but there seems to be a lot of out of focus shots. I've said there's a lot of buttons on there, which is a plus, but as a negative, finding the buttons on here can sometimes be a bit frustrating. They're not in the best of places. Like this one here, this AEL button, is a bit too close to the viewfinder. Should have been just a little bit more to the right, and then this AF on button could have been, well, maybe because they put the wheel there, I don't know, but this AF on button could have been more in the middle, and that way you've got an even spread of buttons. But these two are very close together, which makes this ISO button to the side quite far away. So your fingers are fumbling and they're a little bit. I'm doing it now, even as I'm doing this. I think because my finger's touching the viewfinder, so I'm finding it hard to hit that AEL button straight away. I don't like that the menu button's over here. I'll see if I can change that in the menus for it to be, but then there's not enough buttons so that I can have another menu button on the other side. I don't know if it's the joystick or this pad here at the back. Something moves my autofocus pointer from time to time, so I don't know if I'm accidentally bumping something. Sometimes I come back to the camera and it's slightly moved off. And then the other problem with that is once you've set the joystick or this D-pad, the OK button in the middle of the D-pad can only be set for centering if the joystick button is not set for it. So you can only have one or the other, as far as I know so far. I will try again. I'd love to have both of them so that they can both be set to center. I think some of the menus, once you've set one thing for one thing, then you can't set another button to that. Some you can, but some you can't. It should be fully customizable. I would love both of them to be center so that it doesn't matter whether my hand's on here or on here, I click, and it both be set to center. On the buttons again, this trigger button is nice and easily pressed. Too easily sometimes. I pressed that button accidentally a good 20 times, and when you're shooting at 25 to 50 to 120 frames a second, you don't want to be pressing it accidentally because you're taking a lot of accidental, not needed to shots. I was thinking when I look back, I didn't take these shots. I didn't even know I'd taken loads of these shots. As I'm trying to focus, I'm accidentally pressing a little bit too hard and it's just shooting. It would be nice if that was just a little bit tighter, the tolerance. Obviously, they can't do nothing about that now. It's not a firmware update or anything. But if they make another one that needs to be slightly, it needs to be more tactile. I don't know the exact word to use for that, but it needs to be not so easily pressed once you're focusing, because I don't use back button focus. I use this button here. And I'm used to it on any other camera to be able to hold that without actually shooting. And then when I want, I just press it and shoot. On that as well, whilst pressing the button in Pro Capture, the camera seems to make quite a audible hum once you're, I think it's just Pro Capture actually. Let me just try that quickly. Don't know if you can hear that. It's not doing it now. That's it. While it's saving shots, it seems to, I think it's saving shots. It must be the pre-capture. It seems to be making quite a hissing noise. And at first it was freaking me out. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was something around about me, but it's the actual camera making that noise. It's probably not that loud from anywhere else, but it's loud to me because the camera's right next to me. In summary, if this was the only camera I had, not if it was the only camera I'd ever used, but if this was the only camera I had, I would be over the moon. I would be over the moon because it's just amazing for what it is, for the size of it, for the price of it, for the weight of it, for the, everything. It's a great package. Problem is, I have a Nikon Z8 and a Canon R5, and it is not on par with those cameras. And it's not fair for me to actually put it up against the other cameras because they cost a lot more. But there's a lot of hype going around about this system. And I'm not saying it's not warranted, it is warranted hype, but it is not a full frame camera. And they need to stop pitting it against a full frame camera because it's not. Just remember that before you go into this system. It is not a full frame system. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, comment as much as you can, and share it to all of your friends. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching.